morning, friends. We're live. We're live. I had one of those, there we go, one of those slow mornings with lots of time that inevitably when I go to get online means I have no time. Anyway, hi, my name's Rashida, and I'm here today to talk about move abroad thoughts that are going to get you stuck and stranded and aren't going to serve you. Move abroad thoughts that aren't going to serve you. Because there are a lot of them out there. Every day on this internet, that Moses was good enough to give us. Every day I see somebody, and unfortunately, sometimes it's somebody who looks like me saying something, and I'm like, this is your pre-move abroad thought, and I'd like you not to take it with you. I would love it if you didn't take it with you. So, what we're talking about today, we're talking about things that you need to leave behind, thoughts you need to leave behind. The first one, Black people can't be gentrifiers. I want you to write that on a piece of paper and then rip it up, burn it, something, do something. It's bullshit. Hi, friends. We're a minute in and I'm already cursing. Sorry. I'm a little fired up about this one. Good morning to everyone who's here in the comments. I see Junket and Cheryl and Nichelle, Dr. O, from the membership members and Igami will meet today, probably after this or this evening. I'll tell y'all towards the end how I'm feeling. Thank you for the compliments of a smoky eye. I was playing around this morning, which is also why I was here 2 minutes late. Kicking it with Kim. Good morning. Good morning. All right. On the yesterday, I saw a reel that beautiful Black woman, young Black woman did. And she was saying, I'm moving abroad. And I've told people I'm moving to Mexico City, which I think is how it popped up for me. I've told people I'm moving to Mexico City, and people keep coming to my comments and calling me a gentrifier. But I'm not a gentrifier because I'm Black, and it's the white people who are gentrifying. And anyway, I'm leaving a country where my family was enslaved, and I'm leaving a country that hates me. So why would you call me a gentrifier? Like, I get where I'm leaving a country, I'm escaping a country that hates me. So I'm not a gentrifier. Apple, Cybertruck. Like, these are not, they're both things. They're not things that fall in the same category. They are not related things. These are unrelated things. No, I'm not keeping it up for 3 hours. What if I kept this to an hour today? I know I want to go to book club too. If you're in Kioka and Yvonne's book club, the author, Blank Birdsong of Nobody's Magic, is coming to talk to us today. And so, yeah, I want to go to book club. Chill. I got y'all. Yes, Kioka. Can you drop the link? If you publicly drop the link of the book club, can you drop the link to the book club here? I don't know if you do. Actually, you can't drop a link. If you publicly share the book club, let me know, and I'll drop the link to the book club. If you publicly share it, if you don't, let me know. Okay. Apple, like an edible apple and a Cybertruck. I'm leaving a country that has always hated me, that brought me here, brought my people here, because yes, we came from Africa. Thanks for playing. Brought my people here against their will because they didn't consider us human. And to this day, they still don't consider us human, right? They still consider us less than, even though they live in a country that would be nothing without us and a culture that would do nothing without us. Valid, valid thought, valid thought. And therefore, I'm not a gentrifier is where we get off the rails. We have lost the plot. It's nowhere to be seen. Gentrifying doesn't depend on why you moved. Unfortunately, a lot of the conversations, the assumption is that Americans who move anywhere are gentrifying. And that's not accurate either. Backing up a step, to be fair, getting that girl's comments and calling her a gentrifier simply because she's moving is also crazy. Like, it's xenophobic. It's xenophobia to say that before you even move, you're a gentrifier, right? It's xenophobia to point to someone that you know nothing about their specific lifestyle, how they're living, what they're doing, and saying you're a gentrifier. That's just xenophobia. That's just not liking someone because of the country they came from. So while her logic is flawed, she is reacting to a flawed accusation, a misplaced accusation. We're not doing that. But yes. Black people can be gentrifiers. Hold on, I'm looking for the book club link. The book club is on Facebook. That's the link you want me to share, right, Kyoka? I think I know the name of it. Yes, it's Read and Wander. Okay. The book club is a group called Read and Wander. It is for Black women readers, and it grew out of Exodus Summit. Now, even though it grew out of Exodus Summit, I think 2024, I wasn't actually invited. I had to find it myself, and I feel a way about that. But I'm still going to share your little link to your little book club, Kyoka. All right. So what have we covered today? Black people were brought to America from Africa. Generally, that is the general. There are details. This is not everybody. This is the general thing. If you deny that this skin came from Africa, this channel is not for you. Thanks, friends. It's not. Because I'm going to say some other stuff you don't like either. Appreciate it. Okay. It's Destiny Birdsong, right, today? That's her name? I'm not making that up. We have an author coming to the book club. Anyhoodle. Gentrification is an important topic. And I personally believe, my thoughts, I have very complex thoughts on gentrification. I believe that Black women are less likely to be gentrifiers than anybody else on this planet, because Black women in America specifically, because of our status in the community, because we are always somebody's mule, we are more likely to look out and think about other people than the other humans on the planet. This is specifically about groups in America, right? I don't know what's happening. I can't speak about the caste system in India, right? Like I can't speak about how different groups, who's the most thoughtful group in Malaysia? I don't know. Specifically speaking about America. We are thoughtful people. We move generally. We move thoughtfully. Charlie says we're compassionate and empathetic towards everyone. A lot of times. A lot of y'all not a lot of y'all. Some of y'all not. Some of y'all are struggling. But a lot of times we are more compassionate, we're more thoughtful than other people. And therefore, we are less likely to be gentrifiers because we're more likely to think about how what we're doing impacts the community. But absolutely, there's a lot of gentrifying activity happening in our community. A lot. A lot. Y'all see it. I know y'all see it. Okay, so, ooh, where did my notes go? You know I got to take notes for this. When you're thinking about moving abroad, I want you to be thoughtful in your move. I want you to stop going online and saying things like, Black people aren't gentrifiers. Because it's just not true. I can't be a gentrifier because I'm escaping a country that hates me. It's just not. That's not an apple, a Cybertruck. Not in the same category, not related. One thing is not like the other. We're more likely to be sensitive to something like gentrification, every sensitive topics, even though it's rarely reciprocated to us, because we're more likely to be the victim or the receiver, the victim, whatever, in the US. We're more likely to have been in a community that has been gentrified than a lot of other people, right? And so we know what that looks like and we know the harm that it causes. But let's talk gentrification. And I talk about this topic not a lot, but enough. So you should have already heard my mind. I love it. None of y'all over comments being like, that's not true, because you knew I wasn't about to come in here and say Black people can't be gentrifiers. Y'all already knew that. Thank you. I appreciate you. Hi, 120 of you watching. Have you subscribed? Have you? If you haven't subscribed yet, go ahead and do that. And turn on the notifications. Please and thank you. So we can have more conversations like this. Love you, mean it. Thank you. Okay. All right. Digging deeper, we're not moving from a gentrification topic. We're just going a little bit deeper. And that is one of my least favorite things to hear when it's like, how do I not be a gentrifier? Is live like a local. If I ever hear you say, just live like a local, I'm not listening to another word coming out of your mouth. I'm not, I don't, live like a local is bullshit. Live like a local is bullshit because it flattens people in countries, every country except America. It flattens people into a cartoon, right? When immigrants move to America and they're trying to figure things out economically, people aren't just like, well, just live like a local, because we understand that in America, that could mean 1,000 different things. And some of y'all refuse to accept that in other countries, it could also mean 1,000 different things. Point to the local I should live like. Which one? Because they're not all living the same lifestyle. Which local should I live like? How do I decide which local to mimic, to copy when I'm building my life? And what if you think it's the wrong one? Am I then living like a local? Kyoka says, it's giving, I don't see color, but make it foreign. Yes. Yes. Live like a local flattens everybody into everybody in the country you're talking to into a one-dimensional figure. Which local? Should I be living like Claudia Sheinbaum? La Presidenta de Mexico? Should I be living like someone who lives out in the mountains we talked about last week and commutes in 4 hours a day into Mexico City and may not have running water? Which local should I be living like? Adelia says I'm right. Presidenta. I don't know, but there's another phrase. Black people can't be gentrifiers is not number one on my list. Live like a local is number one on the list of things I absolutely hate to hear from people as like advice about how to manage your move, because I don't understand what that means. I live in a building with a lot of people from Mexico. However, not a lot of them are from Mexico City. It makes sense, because why would you move into this building if you're from Mexico City? If you can afford to live in this building, your family probably has a huge house somewhere that you're living in, right? Why would you move here? Most people are either from somewhere in Latin America or somewhere else in Mexico in my building. Is it living like a local enough if I living like someone from Guadalajara? It's almost impossible to live in a country and not live like a local, because you're living amongst locals. Stop saying that. If a local is renting a 60,000 peso a month apartment, let's call that 3,000 right now, is probably like 3,200, because our exchange rate is giving us the blues down here. But if someone is doing that and I rent an apartment as their neighbor, am I then not living like a local? Or I'm not living like the local in your cartoon imagination, right? Because everyone in Mexico is poor, and so I need to live a very frugal lifestyle. Now, here's where the problem comes in. Here's where we're going to get to how we gentrify. Thank you. You knew I was getting there. The problem comes in when foreigners are paying $60,000 for 60,000 pesos for an apartment that is probably should be rented for 30,000 pesos. Right? That's where the problem comes in. Michelle says your rich landlord can also be a local. My landlord is local. She has a lot more money than I do. I know that this rent that I pay covers the apartment and more, right? And she's a local. Right? I don't own any property in this country. She does. She is of the landlord class, and I am not. Is she the gentrifier, or am I the gentrifier? Or is there no gentrifier in our specific situation? And who gets to decide? When you get online and be like, you're a gentrifier because you live in this country, that's crazy, right? But saying I can't be a gentrifier is also crazy. We have to be mindful of our actions. So if you're spending 60,000 pesos a month for an apartment that should be 30,000 pesos a month, you are contributing to gentrification. However, if you move to a place and every apartment that should be 30,000 pesos is now 60,000 pesos, I understand that you may not have a lot of options. Like, it may just be that those apartments are 60,000 pesos now because of the increase in prices. And so if you have to come here, or you choose to come here, have to come here, whatever it is, people have been immigrating since they had feet. People have been flowing from country to country since before there were countries, right? So when you have when you move and you come to a place and the apartment prices are the apartment prices, and you look and you look and you look, and the apartment prices are the apartment prices, are you gentrifying by renting the apartment at the market rate at that time, even if it's not historically the market rate, right? That complicates the situation. And so you got to think about like what that means right? And how you can move around it. A lot of times it is, and we focus a lot on real estate because real estate is one of the biggest places that you see it. You know, if you live in America, you've seen it, right? Real estate is one of the places you feel it first, and then in other goods and services. A lot of times it takes a lot of searching for places. Like if you want to rent an apartment that is not overpriced, it's going to take, I'll say specifically in Mexico City, probably months to find that apartment. Unfortunately, right? These are not, if you come in, right, into most places, if you're renting something within the first day or two of being there, first week of being there, there's a very good chance you've overpaid. A very good chance you've overpaid. You got to get in the community, look at the prices, figure out what you're doing, right? Figure out what is right and what is not for the market. Hi friend, Black Women Build Wealth. I want to talk about, I saw your comment and I got distracted, so I want to talk about this for a minute. This whole thing of telling people how to live is another way to control their actions. I'm all for building a community of locals, but I don't have to live like them. We all have our own realities. Yes, no. Also, no. For me, part of that is, yes, the whole thing of telling people how to live is a way to control their actions, especially when we're talking about, how you impact other people, because a lot of times the people who are telling you how you're impacting other people aren't the people being impacted. There's somebody else, somewhere else, just judging you. And a lot of that comes down to misogynoir, right? They see a Black woman doing something they don't think you should be able to do. And now they're like, let me tell you what to do. Right? Let me tell you what to do. All for building communities of locals, but I don't have to live like them. There's very little chance you're not going to be living like a set of locals. Right? There's very little chance you're not going to be living amongst, like, you're going to be living like, because, right? Like, if there is housing, a local person probably lives in that type of housing. If there's restaurants, a local person probably eats at, like, locals eat in those restaurants, right? I was not financially struggling in the US. There's no chance that I'm going to move to Mexico and live like someone who's financially struggling. I remember I did a video a long time ago about why we got to stop calling countries like Mexico cheap. And someone came in the comment and he was like, your problem. You already know. When I started with your problem, even though I didn't claim any problems in the video, I was just saying it's more expensive than people think it is. Your problem, clearly a white man, is that people who move to these countries are supposed to be living on a lot less. And you haven't started living on a lot less. And so you're always going to have a problem. And I'm like, he said, people move to these countries to live on a lot less. And I'm like, I didn't move to any country to change our budget. I've never done that. So what are we, and how is it a problem to move somewhere, to choose to live somewhere and live a life that is within your means and a life that other locals are living? Like I said, I am not, Mexico City is one of the most expensive cities in the country. It's like top 2 most expensive countries most expensive cities in the country. I believe Adelia told us last week in her video, but it's the most expensive Mexico City is also a state. It's the most expensive state in the country. I'm not living like if I can live in one of the most expensive cities in the country, and if I can live in one of the most expensive state in the country, I'm not living like a lot of Mexicans just by being here, right? Just by being here. In Mexico City. There's no chance I'm living like someone in a town name that I don't know, right? Because it's so small, I've never heard of it, right? But they're also a local, and we have to stop. We have to stop flatlining. We have to stop making people into cartoons, right? We have to stop making people into cartoons in countries. We also have to stop making Americans into cartoons with the idea that everyone who lives in this country is poor and everyone coming from America is rich. That does nobody any good. What's the benefit of that lie? You know people who are trying to leave America right now who would not be rich by the standards in a lot of countries. Maybe they would not be poor in that country they moved to. Like, talking about America. Let's talk about Thailand. Maybe they would not be poor, the poorest people in Thailand, but they would not be upper class in Thailand, right? We have to stop turning people into caricatures because it only hurts the conversation. Adelia says, except that our preconceived notions about other people and places are often faulty. Yes. Yes. I live like a ton of locals. I live like a ton of locals. My rent is, in comparison, a lot cheaper based on what I'm renting right now, because I've been here in this apartment for 6 years. It's a lot cheaper than a lot of people. Someone who moves from Guadalajara tomorrow is not going to be able to get my apartment. Well, if they rented my apartment, they'd be paying a lot more. But when people see me online, they point to me and say, that's a gentrifier, but not the person from Guadalajara who would be paying more for the same apartment. Right? Halisa says, I wasn't rich in the United States. I'm not rich in Lisbon, Portugal. I live better than a lot of locals, and a lot of locals live better than I do. But it goes back to the point, those locals that are living better than you, paying more for you, and maybe paying more for less sometimes, right? Especially if you're moving into Lisbon from somewhere else, are still going to be considered locals and less likely to be called gentrifiers than you are, simply because you came from America. But you might just be a gentrifier. Might could, right? Black Women Build Wealth said, when I say live like them, they can have better living standards or lower than mine. I'm not comparing real life realities. I never said they have lower living standards. I didn't mean to imply that you said that. Sorry. There's a lot going on. But yes, like you are going to be living like some locals and unlike others. It's just the nature of being in a place, right? Live like a local creates caricatures out of places, out of people. It's unhelpful. It's unhealthy, right? It just is. You want to do the living like a local that I would ask you to try to do is to try to make sure that you are not throwing money around in a way that is problematic. Oh, okay, thanks. I missed it. Listen, the chat y'all are moving in the chat today. I missed it. Thank you. Samira. A lot of times, and we talked about this last week, we talked about this with Vidalia. I have people come to Mexico City and they're like, oh my God, it's so cheap, but Ubers were only like $15. That Uber should be $5. That Uber should be $5, right? Like, what are we? Because that $15 Uber costs a lot when I tell you that I can get on a train to take me anywhere in the city for 25 cents, right? we've seen significant price increases. There are significant price increases happening around the globe because people are moving and are not as price sensitive because they don't know what the price should be because they're not doing their research. They're not as price sensitive, right? And so they throw money at the problem. Christine, they didn't notify you? I don't know what they're doing, girl. Some things you might be like, well, the cost of Uber is the cost of Uber, right? Like, what am I gonna do about it? And I'm gonna let you off the hook if you're visiting, right? Because like, whatever. I walk. I take raggedy buses. I take nice buses and raggedy buses where I don't know where you're going. Right? And I don't know. And I take the train that for 5 pesos, approximately 25, 26, 27 cents, like I said, our exchange rate is punching us in the eye daily. Carla, I hope you're sticking around. Because I take them more now, not because I can't afford an Uber, but because the way I want to decrease the demand that I provide Uber because the demand is making their prices skyrocket, right? Like we all know they do the adjustable pricing, blah, 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 blah. Everything's an algorithm, right? Everything is an algorithm. So we know they tripping. We know that the more demand there is in a location, the higher prices are going to go. And so I have stopped taking Uber as much, not because I can't afford to pay the money. I am offended by the prices. I'm not going to pretend that's not some of it. I am offended by the prices, but I'm also reducing my demand by using public transportation more. Right? Is that living like a local? When you see the Suburbans with the drivers around here, you'll know that me on the bus is a certain level of local that is not my neighbors. Like I have never seen anyone who lives in my building at the bus stop, except for me. There are at least 1,000 people in my building. I've never, in these 6 years I've been in this building, right? How can I help with gentrification? I find my ways. Like, what are the ways? I'm trying to shop more at the local tianguis, which is like a farmer's market, and less at the grocery store. But every time I go there, they be making up prices on me, right? I bought 3 avocados twice this last week. Once at the grocery store, which is 2 blocks away from the farmer's market, and 3 at the farmer's market. 3 at the grocery store cost me about $2.50 US. Three avocados at the farmer's market cost me $5. And I was like, there's no difference, there's no significant difference in size. Y'all just charging me gringo pricing. I don't like that. I don't like that. Right? You can't do it in the grocery store. And so why are you doing it? Like, what are we doing? I come to you every week. I go to the same fruit man every week. But of course, the fruit man doesn't have avocados because avocados are verduras. Don't argue. Don't argue. Just know that the fruit man does not have avocados. The vegetable man does. So I go to Señor Verdura, and I got to charge twice what I'm getting paid in the grocery store. There's no prices listed anywhere, right? It's just a pile of fruit. And I pay what I pay. I want to support, right? I want to shop local. I want to support you. But I keep getting charged gringo pricing, and I don't like it. And so I'm gonna have to go back to the grocery store, because there's no, like, that's part of it too. That's part of the discussion too. When you're gentrifying, right? Like, if you're paying more for something, who are you paying, and why are you paying more, right? If I am paying more because you see my face and you think I'm not from here, what if the prices eventually creep up because I'm willing to pay more, right? Because you're price gouging. Am I the gentrifier? Or are you the one who's gentrified? It happens in housing, it happens in food, it happens in things in stores. I hate going to a store without pricing. I hate it. I hate it. I'm not saying that the man, first of all, when we say farmers market, these are not homegrown things. Everyone goes to the same place. We have the largest farm markets. We have the largest where wholesale. Adelia says hers has posted prices. My fruit man don't. They're like, he had posted prices on like 3 things, and the rest were just up to him to tell you what it cost. Why am I paying the same price for avocados grown in Mexico, most likely, as someone in New York City? Why, I might ask? Why? I'm right. Like, I'm not. So first of all, these are not homegrown heirloom. This is not an heirloom aguacate, right? It's not. It is, everybody goes to the same Central de Abastos, goes to their vendor, loads up their truck, and hits different parts of the city. I know you're overcharging me. I know. I bought chicken from a Sam Tianguis once, and I was like, never again. Never again will I buy chicken from you. Because where did this number come from? Where did this number come from? Oh, yeah. Adelia says Centro de Abastos is the largest market in the world. That's where everyone who gets their foods here, and in a lot of places close to here, that's where it all goes. Everyone drives it in, and at like 2, 3 a.m. in the morning, they load in the trucks and heading out to a local tianguis. Right? Like, it's a farmer's market, but not quite. It's all commercially grown food. Oh no, this is not because I'm Black. It's not. Although we will get to that in a minute. It's not because I'm Black. It's because they're like, she's not from around here. And because I'm Black, I will always, no matter how good my Spanish is, because I'm Black and Afro-Mexicans are not part of the larger cultural, is zeitgeist the right word? Because we're not part of a larger cultural discussion, people see a Black person and they're like, oh, she can't be from here. I will always be seen as someone who's not from here. And so I'm always going to get it. This is a good note. It's important for us to have awareness and it also falls to those who are charging or setting the separate menus pricing. Whenever I go to a restaurant, don't hand me a menu in English. Hand me the Spanish menu. Because I'm gonna pay the Espanol prices. I can read the Espanol menu and I would pay the Espanol price. Okay, are we here? We're here, right? If I have to struggle through the menu, if I'm not exactly sure what I ordered, I will live with that over an English menu. You can haggle with vendors in Mexico. You don't haggle for food, right? And haggling is more of a tourist location thing. I wouldn't, or like we have a market here, Ciudadela, that is mostly handcrafts. Think from China. They're mostly crafts, machine made from China. Used to be a handcraft market. It's very not anymore. You might be able to haggle there. You don't haggle. Maybe I could be like, if I'm buying all these things, can I get a lower price? But I don't see people I assume to be Mexicans, right? They're speaking Spanish. I don't know where you're from. I'm not going to sit here in the market and ask you. I don't see them haggling. I don't haggle with the food people. And so even at times when I try to shop local, right? If I'm getting that foreigner pricing, I've talked about this before, how foreigner pricing creeps in and is eventually everybody's pricing. Eventually. Right? I remember a couple months ago, I saw a young lady online saying she really loves it when she sees places that charge foreigners higher prices than locals. And I was like, you've never lived outside of your country. I can tell. Because if you had ever been a foreigner somewhere where you had to pay for things, maybe as a child she had, I don't know. But you've never lived out of your country as someone who's had to pay for things. Because when you have to pay a bump because you're a foreigner, here's what happens. That bump becomes normalized and becomes everybody's price. And now you're at fault because you gentrified. You didn't ask to pay that bump, right? You did not ask to pay that bump, but you're going to bear the burden of paying it and then be the face of it, even though the aguacate man, Mr. Verdura, is the one who charged you the higher price, right? Like it's in that conversation, I saw someone else say that like they had a situation where like the plumbers, they had a plumber situation and the plumber was like, they're foreigner, I'm gonna charge them more. In that situation, if a plumber, a craftsman, anybody, a gardener is like, they're a foreigner, so I can charge them more, who are they going to prioritize as clients, right? They're going to prioritize people who they think can pay this higher rate, and that's going to be foreigners. You did not ask to pay this price bump. And maybe you don't know what the real price is. And maybe it's almost impossible to find out what the real price is. But that price bump is going to be everyone's price eventually. Or they're only going to start servicing foreigners. Because if they're the kind of person who was like, I am going to charge you more because you don't know better, or I'm going to charge you more because I can, or because I think you have it, they're the kind of person who's always going to be looking for the people they can charge more. Right? You're not like, it's with apartments. People aren't out here saying, I would like to pay 2 times the price. But when I go online, every day I'm seeing apartments and I'm like, that is 2 or 3 times the price it should be. Like it's not even, I saw an apartment the other day that was more than I would pay for an apartment. I think it was 60K pesos. And it had some specific things where I was like, if these things were important to me as a foreigner, this apartment would be worth it. It was a sublease. It was short term. It wasn't long. $3,000 is a lot for an apartment in Mexico City. But like, the apartment had air conditioning. I told y'all, when it gets hot, I'm just hot. I'm just in front of my fan. $3,000 for an apartment with air conditioning. A Peloton you could use. I know some of y'all are Peloton junkies, and we pay. Listen, in the apartment, you're here for a couple months. You're paying for the Peloton in the apartment and a cold plunge pool. Y'all wake up in the morning and go straight into the cold water. You would love that. $60K for the apartment by itself was crazy. I saw some additional things where I was like, I wouldn't pay that much, but I understand why someone would. But most people aren't paying for that. They're paying for 4 walls and some ugly furniture, and they're getting charged the same $3K, or $60K, $50K, $40K for apartments that are not giving anything because they don't do their research. And that's how you end up being a gentrifier, right? When I was applying, my nanny was the one who would get the taxi because when it's me, I knew the price is double the minimum. I went by an art fair once, it was Fidelia, and I asked the guy the price, and he told me the price, and I was like, I need to find someone local I can set that. Because I'm not going to haggle with you about art that you created. It's just not in my nature. I'm not going to haggle with you about your art. I'm either going to buy it at the price or not. But I know that's not the real price. I was like, I know Adelia and I were like, what's happening here? What's going on? Why? I know that's not the real price. Now, I never sent somebody back out. Look, I've never actually seen that artist again. But it's hard to live in a country and not impact it economically. Everyone who lives here does. But one person is not creating gentrification, right? One person is not. A lot of micro actions by a lot of people create gentrification. And I need you to be careful and cautious about your micro actions. Hey, Chantel. Hey, Christine. Why did Aguacate Men charge me so much for the same aguacate from the same place? What are we? And my fruit man be getting over, but he's got a lot of fruit. It's really close. And I don't feel like he's getting over at an amount that makes me upset. Okay. Another thing I want to talk about today, I think this might be a short video. We'll see what happens. Let's see. Some more BS. Y'all drop the move abroad BS that you hear, drop it in the comments. Let's talk about it. What's the thing that when you hear it, like triggers your ears? I'm about to hit you with one. What is the thing that you hear and you're like, why would you say that? That's crazy. That's crazy. Okay. Mine is, they're not talking about us. They're not talking about us. They're talking about white people. I want you to sit and think about that. Sit there and think about that. They're not talking about us. They're talking about white people. They're absolutely talking about you. They are absolutely including you, right? Living Abroad says, when they call us colonizers. Meow. Yes and no. Yes and no. Because sometimes Black people be moving like colonizers. sometimes Black people be moving like colonizers. Sometimes, not all of us, not all the time, but sometimes I see stuff, right? I bought a villa in Bali and I have a staff of 20, and it used to be land that was a rice paddy or had homes, and now it smells. I'm catching a whiff of colonizer. Just a they not talking about us is a lie. They are including you. You are a foreigner from a foreign land. They are talking about you. You are included. You may think that because your skin is brown and the place you move to may have brown skin as well. Some version, you know that the Peter Griffin meme where he's got all the cop pulled him over and has all the colors to see whether he's guilty or not guilty, right? The skin tones may look somewhat similar, but when someone is upset, when someone's talking about gentrification, when someone is talking about colonizers, they are not separating you out. They're not like, but she's different and she's special because she's Black. They are talking about you. Right? They are talking about you because some of y'all be moving like colonizers. Right? They are talking about you. You're not different and special because you're Black. Anti-Blackness is everywhere. Anti-Blackness. Oh, Celeste, you almost gave me a heart attack. Okay, anti-Blackness is everywhere. Misogynoir is everywhere. Right? The patriarchy, capitalism, they're everywhere. They are talking about you. You can, and all you can do is be you, right? If you listen, if someone gets online and calls me a colonizer, what am I gonna do? Let them read my diary so they know I have not done anything colonizing? Okay. All right. Like, there's no, like, that is when they group people together. If someone hates foreigners, if we're talking about xenophobia again, and you're a foreigner in that land, they are talking about you, right? There are people in the same land who don't care about whether you're a foreigner or not at all. They recognize that you are one, but they don't care. It does not matter to them, right? It does not matter to them that you're a foreigner. And so what? They just move into the world. You're still grouped in that foreigner category. And so you have to be careful having that conversation and the assumption that, like, oh, but when they're talking about colonizers, they're talking about white people. In a lot of places, you're a white person. In some places in Africa, you're a white person. Simply by virtue of being a foreigner, simply by virtue of being from a Western country. Right? Gringo doesn't mean foreigner, but I'm getting gringo pricing. Traditionally, doesn't mean anyway. There are part of moving abroad and part of being visible before your move, like that young lady who I mentioned who was making videos about this and saying she was going to move online. Part of being visible and being online about your move and being in a new place where people can actually visibly see you is knowing that who you are, how you move through the world, when you create harm, right? When you try to diminish harm, and knowing that you can sleep at night, right? Uh, Coffee spills the tea. The South Africans called her. This is this is so. Why won't this get on the screen? What's going on? There we go. When I lived in Australia in the 90s, the South Africans were calling me an honorary white. I couldn't believe it. I was horrified. There's so much wrong. Like there's so many words in here that are wrong. And y'all can point to all the words. I know I don't have to say it. Y'all know. There's woo, that's a heavy one. And so they are not talking about us is a myth. It is a myth, right? If someone does not like foreigners being in their country for any reason at all, think about ICE right now. They're not looking for IDs and information. They're looking at skin color, right? They're like, is this the shade of brown I'm looking for? Do I hear an accent? Put them in the truck. Put them in the truck. We'll sort it out later. And put them in the truck. We'll sort them out later is the attitude a lot of people have online. So when people say they're not talking about us, they're talking about you. When they call us colonizers, now it's a colonizer is going to be the same kind of put them all in the truck category. They have decided that anybody who's not from here, or anybody who's from America, or anybody who they can visibly identify as a foreigner is a colonizer. Because I've never seen you colonize anything. What have I colonized? What have Black women colonized? Even if you're talking about not me specifically, but my group, what have Black women colonized? Where? What? Give it to me, right? If the category is Americans, I'll take that. I'll take that. If you're calling me a colonizer because I'm from America, I'm gonna be like, okay, but right, I'm not going to engage in that conversation with you because I know I personally am not colonizing nothing. I'm not moving through the world like an ugly American. But you have no way of knowing that. And you have already decided in your mind that everybody from America is a colonizer. And you have a good reason to think that because it's a colonizing ass country. Americans are seen as colonizers because they come from a colonizing country. And so when they call me a colonizer, I'm like, to you? Okay. Okay. There's no amount of like me prove. How do I prove that I'm not? I don't. It and this goes back to what the young lady was saying, but right back to the beginning. She was like, I live in a country that hates me. So how can I be a gentrifier? Nobody, the people who are calling you a gentrifier or the people who are calling you a colonizer either don't understand your position, where you're coming from, how you live in the country you live, or they don't care. And both are okay, but you have to be okay with both. It's You have to be okay with both. You can call me a colonizer. You can call me a gentrifier. Okay. I know that in my daily actions, I do my best to not contribute to gentrification. And I have not colonized an ant. They have colonies, right? Yes. And so what? Okay. They don't call you a colonizer. Somewhere online, someone's gonna call you a colonizer. And it feels terrible because for most of us, colonizers are the enemy. But the people who are calling you a colonizer do not separate you from the actual people doing the colonization, from the government, from the tech bros who've gone to Hawaii and bought up all the land to build their bunkers, right? Another form of colonization. They're not separating you. And because they're not separating you, they're calling you a colonizer. That also leads back to they're not talking about us. They absolutely are. They absolutely are. So you got to let things like getting called a colonizer, if you're not, go let it roll off your back. And know that some people are never going to like you because you're a foreigner. And some people are never going to like you because you're Black. Some people are never going to like you because you're a woman. Some people are never going to like you because you come from America or the UK or Canada. Y'all be letting Canada off the hook a little. You know what? Never mind. I'm not even Canada. Y'all be letting Canadians off the hook. The country itself, whatever. They really don't do nothing. But the Canadians are in these countries too, and they're not getting the verbal heat. The verbal heat is always for Americans. You can call me a colonizer, you can call me a gentrifier. Okay. It says more about you than it does about me. You're xenophobic. You may be hurt. You may be upset about what's going on in your country. Okay. Valid. Pointing to me and saying it's my fault? Okay. Cassandra says sometimes we go places and move like colonizers, not realizing how much we have adopted the colonizers' way. Yes. If you grew up in America, you grew up in a place where the important things are getting money and power without regard to who it hurts. Oh, what did I hear yesterday? I heard someone say ethics tests are always like, is it good? Is it okay to steal bread if you're to feed your family if your family's starving? But ethics tests are never like, is it okay to hoard bread so everybody starves? And that is the American dilemma that we are completely ignoring, right? We have grown up in a system where the ethics question is never, is the person hoarding all the resources wrong? The question that is posed to us all the time is, where's the line that you should not cross in order to help your starving family? Where's the line that you should not cross because all the resources are being held by someone else, but that guy's okay, right? It's okay when someone calls you a colonizer, or now, as long as you're not colonizing and gentrifying, which is a mindset that, like I said, we grew up in. It's hard to get away from. But it's okay if you're not doing those things. Charlie said it, we have a lot to unlearn. We have a lot to unlearn, right? Westy Katie, I'm kind of stuck here a little bit. We're going there and causing prices to rise. We're a little gentrifying. Our presence is not causing prices to rise. It's our bare presence is not causing prices to rise. People are raising prices because they think we can pay more, and then we are paying more. We are a part of the problem. We're not the origin of the problem, especially Black women, right? I don't know if you came in late, but we absolutely can be gentrifiers. But it's a more nuanced conversation. Woo. 2020 COVID era showed how unethical and hoardish the USA can be. I'm supposed to go to America on Wednesday so I can see Beyonce on Friday? No. On Sunday? I don't know. What are days? And I'm like, when we this doesn't feel like a good time to go to America, y'all. Like, it does not feel like a great time because one, that man is insane. And I feel like he's not going to be happy until someone attacks America so he can warmonger even more. And two, because of what I've seen in COVID and because of what we see online every day, we know that people are at their most terrible when they're scared. And going to America when it is looking real worry, it doesn't feel like I'm going to be dealing with the nicest, kindest people. Right? I don't know, but this is a good idea for me to go to. Like, I'm not going to America for Beyonce to see me. Right? I'm going to see her. And if you got that, you got that, right? I don't know, but it's like I really wanted to go to. I've been telling y'all for months. I really wanted to go to this concert in Houston. But going to America this week, when I don't have to be in America. Oh, and Adelia sent me a map the other day, and it was like, whose weapons were there? Was it like, it may have been Israel. So it was like, where can their nuclear weapons reach? And Mexico was not in a place where they could reach. Most of the US was. Mexico was not. I don't, because of how we turn in south and north, whatever. I was like, this is feeling kind of nice. Adelia, what country was it? It just feels like, yeah, it's not the smart time to leave. Where's that map? The problem is Delia and I send each other things every day, and so it's so hard to see where that would be. Oh, I think it was on Instagram. On Instagram. She's already been abroad, T. Gaynor Jennings. She just did Paris and London. I think I missed her. My bestie this week was like, can you make it to Paris to see her? And I was like, the concert's tomorrow. And I do a lot of things that other people might not do, but that I think is beyond the things that I don't do. Yeah, so I don't think I'm going to see Beyonce because that's crazy. Where's that map? Adelia, are you still here? Am I making things up? I can't find it. Whoever's nuclear weapons they were, they could not reach Mexico. And I was like, cool. Yeah, Asper Beverly says, right now, large gatherings don't feel safe to be in. Y'all see how quickly they stopped talking about the Minnesota senators getting shot, getting murdered in their home? How quickly that happened? It's no longer new. Assassinate? Crazy. Israel's missiles. Thank you. Lady Spirit said she would enjoy her concert and travel back home safely. Okay, so part of my thought process about this, and we're totally off track, but we're gonna stay here for a minute before we get right back on. Part of my thought process is Houston is never a place I have lived. Houston is a place where I might have connections, right? I know there's a ton of women in Exodus, or if I was like, I need something, they would be like, we got you, right? But it's not a place where I have what I consider family. If something happens and I had to bunker down somewhere, that's not a time. War isn't a time where I want to rely on the kindness of strangers, right? I It's just like Tori said, I'm in Houston, I got you. I know this. I know I have people who would take care of me if something happened in Houston. But also, it's a concert. I've had tickets to a Beyonce concert before and not been able to go. I'll be okay. Why why are we bombing people this week? It couldn't wait until Beyonce was done? Very rude. Very rude, very rude, very rude. Leslie Moore is leaving for Grenada on August 16th. Christina R, I saw you ask earlier if I can practice law in Mexico. I cannot practice Mexican law. I could have a law office that in America. I could do American law stuff for American clients from Mexico, but I'd chew off my own toenails first. Thanks for asking. What's so sad is that we have to rethink everything, even going to a concert. Yes. Essence Fest is coming up. What are y'all doing? It's the summer. If you're gonna go to war, do it in the winter. We're inside. What is it? Why? Y'all not gonna be happy. This, woo. They are trying to wipe brown people off the map, country by country by country. And I'm tired. I'm so tired. Whew. All right. Someone else said, okay, Celeste, we're gonna get back to your comment because child, when I saw it, I was like, free my people, free my people. This bothers me. Okay. They should be happy. I'm here to spend my money at all. Now, I told Celeste, I told y'all to write things that you hear people say that drive you insane, and this is the one. Okay, this one might be number one on it. This one, no. This is not number one on my list because I'm talking to Black women, and I have never heard a Black woman say this specific sentence. I've heard them say things real close, real close, but I've never heard a Black woman say this specific sentence. But I have seen when Mexico stopped giving out automatic 180-day visas at the border, at the airports, and they started giving people however much they felt, there was a whole bunch of white people who've been living in Mexico without residency. The snowbirds coming from Canada and the US were like, how dare they? I've been here for years, contributing to the economy. They should be happy I'm here. I'm spending money. The Mexican economy is not going to survive without us. How dare they? Y'all sound crazy. Y'all sound absolutely crazy. I was like, why would people? This is a country with, and I know the Mexico is third world. I'm putting this in quotes, so it's clear. No one's gonna cut this and be like what she just said. Mexico is third world. Everybody is so poor. We hear it over, it's a poor country. They have a great economy. It's thriving. They have an absolute great economy that is thriving. Yes. Yes. If you put a chart up, there is a lot of poverty in this country, right? There is. They should be happy I'm here to spend my money at all is top of the charts colonizer behavior. Like that's it. That is the colonizer. When you see that, the smell is getting a little stronger. It's more than a whiff. That's the colonizer. They should be happy. Ask Beverly says she heard it in Jamaica. One white man. If all they wanted was your money, they wouldn't be putting limits on how much time you could spend in the country. They have clearly thought about it and decided you weren't worth it. So I guess they're not, your money isn't what's that important to them. Right? I guess it's not. They should be happy I'm here. I saw a video the other day of this white guy somewhere, I would guess probably Indonesia. I didn't get the details. And he had like 10 locals trying to fight him. And it's so sad, but I was like, you know, he's the problem. You know, he's a problem. You know, he's the problem. Hi, Nina. I said what I said. If you consider it race baiting, that's a you problem, not a me problem. Thanks for playing. I was like, I know whatever. A lot of you have been to Indonesia. Have you ever seen an Indonesian man get in a fight on the street? It looked like it was some kind of like maybe touristy kind of place. If multiple people are trying to fight you in this place and you're a foreigner there, and foreigners are usually accorded a bit of respect and like, or at least avoidance, I was like, y'all not fighting him hard enough. I don't know what he did. Y'all not fighting him hard enough. Y'all not. Punch him. Right? Like the attitude that people in any country should be happy that you're here because you're spending money. That is colonization. That is the abuse. That is what you need to get away from. But we hear it. We hear it. Yeah. Cogitate. I'm probably saying that wrong. I had it in my brain like 3 different ways before I actually said it. Sadly, I've heard a Black woman say that about tourism in the Caribbean. They should be happy we're going there because they need us to spend our money because they need tourism. That's what colonialism looks like. It is. When like people talk shit to me online. Like, was it Nina who just said I was race baiting? Yes. Yes, girl. Yes. Talking to Black woman about Black woman's business. I hear you come. Here you come with your opinions when nobody was talking to you. Anyway, people have opinions. They share them. Most of the time, I'm like, I don't give a damn what you're saying. And not because it's not coming from a place of like introspection. It's not coming from a place of like thought or care. It's coming from like xenophobia. It's coming from misogynoir. I was on Threads once, and I was saying that like gentrification, I live in Mexico City, gentrification is a problem, but I refuse to have a conversation about the problem of gentrification with anyone who does not accept that like there is a part of gentrification in Mexico is generally caused by foreigners and by Mexicans. Not all Mexicans, but some of them. And I was like, if you can't accept that rental prices are going up because foreigners are here and landlords are raising prices, if you refuse to accept that the landlords play a role in the gentrification conversation, I'm just not going to have a conversation with you. I'm not going to, because we're not coming from a place where we're ever going to agree. The way I was attacked and called all kinds of stuff online for that, and I was like, I'm not even saying that gentrification is not a problem. I'm not saying that foreigners don't play a role. I'm saying they are not on their own raising prices. This is a city where foreigners own very little, if any, real estate. This is a city where the mayor was encouraging, I'm sorry, the mayor created a partnership with Airbnb while the residents of the city were complaining that Airbnb was raising the prices of the rent in the neighborhood. The mayor was like, I hear y'all. I'm still balls deep with Airbnb. So what we doing? If we can't acknowledge that the landlord class is playing a role in gentrification, or if you can't acknowledge that, I will not have this conversation with you. Girl. The way people talked about me like a dog that day, and I was like, okay, like it doesn't, I'm still not, I think one man actually threatened me. And I was like threatened my physical safety. Run up. Okay. I don't, you're online, probably like the last guy in Boston, probably. Talking smack. Because you can't acknowledge that the problem is multifaceted. Okay. Well, I'm not talking to you about it then. Um, all that to say, yes, as a Black woman, you can be a gentrifier. As a Black man, you can be a gentrifier. Are you likely to be a gentrifier? No. No. Are you less likely to contribute to gentrification than other people coming from the same place? Yes, that's what I will say. You are less likely to be a gentrifier because you are probably more thoughtful about how your actions impact the community because you are more community minded as a Black woman than a lot of the rest of the world. That doesn't mean that you don't contribute to gentrification. It doesn't mean that you don't, right? You will. I will. I'm sure there are a lot of ways that I don't even realize in which I contribute to gentrification. But in the ways in which I can see it, I do my best to not. I went out of my way to make sure I was renting from a Mexico City local. And I did. And I've been in the same apartment all this time. When I move, I'm going to try my best to make sure I'm renting from someone who is local to the area so that my money goes back into the community because that's where you see colonialism happening in these countries, in these resorts, in these places where you go stay. Now, mind you, I love me a nice hotel. I love me a resort. I recognize that's part of the problem. Part of the problem is that the ownership is not local, right? And so the money leaves the country, right? That's the colonization. There's something to be said for countries who are trying to address that like all the nice land is owned by foreign companies. There's something to be said for countries who are trying to do something about that, making sure things like their beaches are open to locals, etc., and they don't privatize all the beach land, all the good beach land in their countries. But if the land's already been sold off and the country's not doing anything, it's very hard for you as an individual to do anything. So it's like, say I want to go on vacation in Mexico. I can probably find a Mexican. I have not been thoughtful about who owns the places I'm going to stay. I'll acknowledge that. I don't. If I wanted to find a Mexican-owned place, I might be able to find one. Would I be able to find a fully Mexican-owned place that doesn't have like I know there are big hotel groups that are owned locally, but are they fully owned locally? Or is some of the money leaking out somewhere else? I don't know. Right? Like these are ways where I could contribute less to gentrification, staying in places where I know the money is re-entering the local economy. But with the way capitalism is set up, I think that's harder to find. So Adelia just answered this question, but I was going to do it too, so I'll do it here. The question is, if we didn't come with those apartments sit empty? Absolutely. The thing about Mexico City and Mexico in general, in a lot of areas, people are buying property to hide money. Or maybe not to hide money, but to park money. I'll say to park money. Just to park money. There are 10 apartments on my floor, and there are 5 with mats outside. I've probably seen someone come in and out of 6 of them. There are 4 units on my floor, but I've lived here for 6 years in this building. The end of this year will be 6 years. I have never seen someone go in and out of some of those buildings, some of those units, and they're not available. Someone bought them and they're sitting empty. So renting here is a problem because people would rather, sometimes, not to generalize, I know Mexico somewhat, but not that well, and the Mexican economy somewhat, but not that well. But to generalize, some people buy real estate because they don't want to have their money in banks. And so they're like, I'll just buy this, sit it there, and sell it later. Or rent it later, or give it to my granddaughter. Who knows, right? Things stay empty for a long time around here. And so if you're not giving the landlord exactly what they want, they'd rather leave it empty. These are not poor people. The landlord class here is not poor. Why do they leave the units empty? Because they can. They don't want the hassle. It was never about buying the property was not about making money from the property. Buying the property was about hiding money, parking money, having a place to store money that's not the bank. They don't need rent money. Almost half of the units on my floor are just parked. And we have a housing crisis. If those units were available for rent, there would be more. If 40% of my floor opened up, there'd be more available units and rents might not be so high. But that's never part of the conversation when we're talking about gentrification. conversation. 60% availability versus 100% availability. Here's a big difference. Now, this is not a criticism of that process because it is what it is. It is just, it's part of the equation when we talk about housing costs in Mexico. It's part of the equation when we talk about housing costs anywhere. Why are there so many empty units that are just being sat on? They're being hoarded, right? Because hoarding has become the richest hobby, I guess. They hoard resources, food, housing. They hoard money. They hoard anything they can simply to hoard it. There are very few individuals who I would point to and say, you're the problem, the same way I wouldn't want someone pointing to me and saying, I am the problem of gentrification, right? Because if one person has money they don't want the government to know about, or they don't want to keep in a bank, and they buy a unit and they don't rent it out, they themselves are not the problem. It is thousands of people doing that impacts the economy and causes a housing problem, right? And it's a global thing. When I say thousands, I mean thousands in the city. Hundreds of thousands, millions around the world, probably. No, I saw Adelia again sent me a map of Airbnb, of like Airbnb. You could see like Airbnbs in your location, and like close to me there were 44 that were all hosted by the same, either hosted or owned by the same person. "44 units. Why? Why?" Oh, I looked back on that CNBC video I did a couple years ago, and I was looking at some comments, and someone said, what we all need to do is buy real estate and use that to make wealth. And I was like, who is he including in all? And who is he not including in all? Because if we all, collective humanity, buy real estate, who will we be profiting from with this real estate? So you don't mean all. Who do you mean? Who are you talking to? What we all need to do. And I was like, that's so interesting. Because the only way that works is if you are hoarding resources. And making money is probably, like, most likely by overcharging people for the resources. So what are we doing? What are we doing? Vancouver is a city that I have seen do some interesting things about foreign ownership and empty units. And I think they are, a lot of cities should be implementing what Vancouver is doing, or some version of it, right? Some version of what they're doing, because what is this? Like, they are feeling that housing crisis. Why is your unit empty? Because you have more money than you know what to do with. Living life my way. As an ex-finance person, I think that is reasonable. They're exchanging one asset cash for another asset property. I think it's a way to avoid some fluctuations in currency. Yes. And it is a way to create a housing crisis. Like I said, no individual doing it, I'm sure no individual doing it is like, oh, I'm going to create a housing crisis. But like, we're not blind to the fact that it's happening. And putting our head in the sand and acting like it's not happening is insane. TM Reeves wants to know what race relations in Mexico are like with Black Americans in light of what's going on in the US with ICE. Not that nobody cares, But like, people are still smiling at me on the streets, right? People are still giving me a good morning, a good afternoon, or a good evening. What what we see online is generally not a good representation of what's happening in the real world. In the sense that like you may receive vitriol. I may receive vitriol online for being a Black American, not really, but you know, a Black American who moved to Mexico. But in person, that's not happening. It is never, in the years here, no one has ever beefed with me about that. And no one's changed. Cultural changes are slow. No, Westy Katie asked if they're hoarding to prevent fleeing Americans from landing. The hoarding we're talking about has been happening around the world for decades, if not centuries, right? That's not nothing to do with America's current president. In Mexico, they have money. The landlord class has money and does not want the government to know about all their money. And so they do things like buy real estate and let it sit there. Or they don't trust banks. Or they want to avoid fluctuations in currency. All valid reasons, all have the same impact on the local housing market. So, let me see if there's anything else that I'm on this. Did any of you guys say something that bugs you when people say it? We got Celeste, which is uh, they should be happy I'm here to spend my money. Mine is live like a local. Locals shop at the tianguis, locals shop at the grocery store. Locals live in $20,000 a month apartments. Locals live in $200 a month houses. There's a very good chance you're in the middle living like a local. All you can do is move, right? All you can do is try not to cause harm. Look at the ways you could be doing better, right? Be thoughtful, be mindful. If you're a Black woman, you're probably already those things. Anything else you guys hear that drives you crazy? Oh, yeah, both Adelia and Kay said the same thing. They should speak English, or why doesn't anyone speak English? There's a lot more English spoken in Mexico City than when I moved here. And there's a lot more English spoken in the areas where Americans and Canadians and Europeans are moving rapidly and gentrifying rapidly. When I first moved here in those same neighborhoods, when I came here in 2019, in those same neighborhoods, you would not hear English a lot. You know, some days I'm like, I wish this person spoke English. And some days I'm like, I wish my Spanish was better. To me, it's two sides of the same coin. In the fact that because I talked about this last week. I talked about this last week, and I want you to remember some things are inside thoughts. Some things are inside thoughts. And we think them inside our head, we don't say them out loud, right? So if I'm like, damn, I wish this person spoke English, right? It's not a thought I share. And it's not a why doesn't anyone speak English? it's like in this specific situation, there's absolutely no way I can do this in Spanish. And I wish my Spanish is better, but I don't have banking Spanish, right? Like maybe that's what it is. I just don't have it. And they don't speak any English. We're gonna thug our way through with some translators, an app, some miming. I'm gonna be out here acting out the whole thing, right? But you won't hear me say, why does anyone speak English? There are days where I'm struggling and I'm like, damn. If I spoke better Spanish, it's my first thought is now I will ask, do you speak English if I'm struggling? A lot of times I'll be struggling. A lot of times I think I'm doing a great job. I'm out here, I'm talking to someone, I'm giving them my best Spanish, and they're like, let's just do this in English. And I'm like, oh, was I, did I? No. So sometimes, even though I'm trying in Spanish, people be like, no, girl, no. But I've never said out loud, why doesn't anyone speak English? Because one, people do. Two, it's my responsibility to learn the local language. And three, if I can't figure out how to move through my daily life in the country I live in with the level of my language that's spoken there and the level of their language that I speak, I got to make another move with my life. All right? I got to make another move. And there are always going to be times where things are difficult. Like we were talking about last week, when people come up to me and say things out of like there's no context. I struggle. But we are going to struggle together on this, or whatever you need is not that. If you're not willing to struggle with me to make me understand what we're talking about, whatever you needed to tell me was not that important. I didn't. It just isn't. It was out of context. In context, I'm gonna look up a few words before I go. Before I went to the doctor a couple weeks ago, I looked up neck because I'm never in the now. Once I did it, I was like, oh yeah, I know that word. But I'm gonna look up a few words I need before I get there. Before I go to the bank, I'm gonna look up the words I need to know to properly let someone know what I need. But it's never why don't they speak English. Sometimes it would be easier if this person spoke English. At the same time, the other side of the coin is it would be easier if I spoke more Spanish. I am not disappointed because I don't speak more English. I realize sometimes I'm stuck because I don't have it. Why doesn't anyone speak English? Like, if you can't move about in the language level that is currently spoken in that place, you shouldn't be in that place. Right? That doesn't mean if you don't speak Spanish, don't go to Spain. That means if you can't thug it out and learn some basic Spanish, and people are gonna hate this, but I'm gonna say it, or keep her behind in the tourist bubble where you'll need less Spanish and there will be more English. That is an option available to you until you learn more of the language you need to know. Right? There are ways to make your non-local language speaking behind make it easier for you. Yes, Beverly, I'm trying to show off my skills. I just learned the 17th past tense that my teacher said I need to know. I've learned all these different past tenses. I'm gonna use the, and now you're like, girl, let's not. I want to cry. I want to cry. Has my Spanish improved significantly just by living here? No, it hasn't. Taking Spanish classes has improved it. I think if I didn't move here right before the pandemic and then stay here through most of the pandemic, where a lot of people were wearing masks, we weren't doing things. I think if I was an outsidey person, my Spanish would really improve just by living here, but it doesn't. I talked about this on Instagram this week. I don't want to do small talk with people, and so I my conversations are generally transactional. I'm at the grocery store talking to somebody. The clerk's talking to me. I'm talking to the clerk. Something like that, right? I I'm not having deep conversations in Spanish because the people who are open. That's the other thing. People who are open to speaking to you are generally people who know a little bit of English, right? People who don't speak any English speak to me all the time, but they're not like, let's have a deep conversation and be friends. Because they're like, she speaks like maybe a third grader. No, she's not conjugating right. So what is that, like first grade? She just said, me want taco. So like, I'm not struggling through a friendship like this. Right? They're like, she don't, I can't have a grown-up conversation with her. It takes too long. No, people who tend to be open to friendships with foreigners, in my experience, are people who have a smidge of the language they speak. People who don't will generally avoid me. She's not conjugating. She don't know them words. Oh, wait. Um, Someone said I should start a Spanish class in for Exodus. We have last month was Foreign Language Learning Month in Exodus ASAP. The link is in the chat. And if I'm smart, I can put it up now. Not too many things at once, y'all. Last month was Language Month. This month is Decluttering Month. Next month, we're doing the Get Your Next 3 Clients Challenge. And because of Language Month, we've started doing movie nights. And at least once a month so far, we are doing watching a movie together and talking about the words we learned and like that in whatever language you want to learn. So we're doing language stuff in Exodus ACP, but I am not, oh, start, I'm not starting a Spanish club. That's not, mm-mm, that's not, I do enough right now. And it's important to know when you do enough. What steps are you taking to improve your Spanish? I've taken multiple courses at the university. And I'm doing Duolingo daily. Where is that? Oh, Tenero said, decades ago, before cell phones, a friend called the local currency funny money because they didn't know how to convert USD to local currency. It's not their job to know the conversion rate or how to convert it. It's yours. But here, places who take US dollars will tell you the conversion rate, and you're going to lose so much money on that conversion rate. It's going to be hilarious. Exactly. They prefer US dollars means one, the price they're charging you is ridiculous. Like if I look, because of the state of the residential real estate market, I mean rental market, I look at housing stuff all the time. And when I see a price in US dollars, I just laugh to myself and wonder which sucker they're gonna get for that. Hopefully the sucker is like a corporation and not an individual. A corporation paying for someone to live in a place. But if they are charging for US dollars, If you see a price in US dollars, walk away slowly. Outside of, I mean, some places like Panama where the US dollar is used frequently, but if it's not a place where the US dollar is a currency, is like a recognized currency, but they accept that this vendor accepts US dollars or prices things in US dollars, you about to get robbed. Thanks for playing. Lady Sarita says hit the join and like button. So hit the join and like button. Don't disappoint Lady Sarita. Let's see. Yeah, don't call US dollars real money. Them ATMs that you see in Playa del Carmen and Cancun and some other tourist places where you can get US dollars out, you're getting robbed like 7 times. I'm so sorry to tell you. You are getting robbed. So when you get US dollars out of, again, not Panama, not countries where US dollars are used. If they have a local currency, and most people use the local currency, but you see an ATM that says, we'll give you US dollars, you got took by like 4 different conversion rates. Because the local ATM is going to charge you a fee, right? They're going to charge you they're going to charge a conversion rate. Because you're doing this in another country, your bank probably most likely does not see it as taking out US dollars. They see it as taking out pesos, which this bank is now converted to US dollars. And so they're going to charge you the conversion rate on the pesos. And they're probably going to charge you a fee for using a different ATM. And then now that you have your money, you're going to go to a vendor and use US dollars and pay a price that is insane compared to what you would pay if you paid in pesos. I'm sure I've missed some of the robbery along the way, but when you go to a country, use the local currency. Don't call US dollars real money. Don't be out there looking for ATMs with US dollars. I get money from the ATM. I go and I put in, I need 60 pesos. Why do I need $3? None of their business. But like, I go to the bank with I use Fidelity and Chase. No, I use Fidelity and Charles Schwab as my, here's my Charles Schwab debit card. Boom, boom, boom. I go to the bank. I put it in the machine. I get pesos out. I decline the conversion rate that the ATM is offering, the local ATM is offering me, because it's probably worse than the conversion rate that my bank will offer me. And I have pesos and I go. That's it. There was another comment that I wanted to address. Oh, someone earlier said when they go to America, they should learn English. Y'all got to stop saying that. That's that ugliness. That's that ugliness. That is so ugly. It is like you cannot seriously be watching this channel and seriously be considering moving abroad and saying things like, when people come to America, they need to learn English, because you know there is no official language in America. English is not the official language of America. Ignoring that, when you go to another country and you don't speak the local language fluently, you're not going to want people to be like, I'm not even going to talk to her. She needs to learn Spanish. How come she don't know Spanish? The people who move from other countries to America are usually trying to learn some English because English is widely used. They're also trying to survive in that capitalist warmongering hellscape. So saying that people who move to America should learn English is some of the ugliest shit you can say, and I don't want to see it in my comments anymore. Love you, mean it, don't do that. It's ugly. Stephanie was talking yesterday about the way Some of y'all be like, look how white I can be. And that's one of the ways. It's rubbing off on you. Speak English in America is so ugly. It's so unnecessary. It's so unnecessary. First of all, you're not even talking to them people. How does it impact you? If a Thai person is speaking Thai in the US, they're not talking to me because I don't speak no Thai. Like, hey, let's be real. Why do I care? Why do you, don't be ugly. Don't be ugly in these comments. We gonna work on decolonizing our mind. Now we get here because we have been molded, we have been educated, we have been trained to be by nature Americans, and Americans by nature, by the nature of the birth of the nation, are ugly. It's a lot of ugliness in the past. You don't have to replicate it. You can see better and do better. Cassandra, I don't know why you're doubling down on this. English is a very hard language to learn. And you know people who've been in America their whole life, who don't choose the right words, who don't write the right words at times, who can't spell. And like I said, you got people coming from other countries, probably here legally, and still got to fight ICE. And you're worried about how much English they speak? Yes, Cassandra, you said we should learn Spanish, and you should. I can say you should because you are someone who is moving, and I know, not you specifically, us watching. If we want it to be easier, we should speak the local language. It will be easier for the foreigners in America when they speak our local official language, except we don't have one. We don't have an official language. You have let white people decide for you that English is superior, and therefore everyone in America needs to speak English, and that's ugly. English is not the official language of America. We do not have an official language. On purpose. It's a super hard language to learn. If you want to get grace from people when you are in their country and you don't know how to conjugate she learned yesterday, because that's just one word, right? Then you got to give people grace for not knowing English, which is not even the language. And this ain't England. This ain't England. You get to choose whether you want to be a kind, loving, supportive member of the community at large, and I mean like the global community, or whether you care about this person speaking a language you don't understand. I do not care about that person speaking a language I don't understand. Because what it got to do with me? It means nothing. Listen, it means nothing to me if someone needs help from me. I'm gonna try to help them. I'm gonna tell y'all again, I was in Vietnam translating between the Spanish men from Spain And the Vietnamese people who spoke English but no Spanish, I was in there translating, doing my bad girl thing. Loved it. Felt really good that I could help. In other places, if I don't speak the language and you probably aren't coming to me for help, right? Someone who speaks Urdu is probably not trying to have a conversation with me if that's the only language they speak. And so I don't care that they speak Urdu and they don't speak English. It's really hard to learn English. As an adult, it's really, really hard to learn any language. I'm trying with my Spanish, and people give me grace all the time here. They be like, look at this dummy. I'm just going to sit here while she talks to me. She making this conversation 4 times longer than it needs to be because she don't know her words. Yes, and I get grace. And we should be showing other people grace as well. There's no reason for anyone to come to America and learn English except they decide to. They choose to is the only reason someone should learn language. Spanish is the official language in Mexico. Well, we have a lot of languages, actually. We have a lot of languages. Spanish is the main one. It is the one that government services are done in, etc. I'm learning Spanish to make it easier for me. No one has ever said, no one is not, honestly, this is not about you, Cassandra. I am saying this about someone else. But no one who's not trying to be an asshole has ever told me online, you live in Mexico, you should learn Spanish. The only time it's happened, someone was being an asshole. And that's what you sound like. So you keep doubling down, Cassandra, and saying you feel like if you move to any country, you should try to learn the local dialect. First of all, we already talked about how English is not the local dialect. English is one of many languages spoken. There's a reason. Like, it's not by accident that America does not have an official language. There were choices made. Now, these choices might be undone. I wouldn't be surprised in the next 4 years or so. But there are significant choices made of why America does not have an official language, has not selected one language as the language of America. And there is a reason people insist that English is the language. It's white supremacy. That's the reason. Insisting that people speak English in America, you become an agent of white supremacy. And you can do better. I know you can do better. Right? There's no reason that you should have any thoughts about a language anyone speaks in America. I literally do not care. You speak a language I don't know, teach me a word. Teach me a bad word. I'm going to forget it in a week because perimenopause and brain fog. But teach me something. Right? We have to. Courtney says people have been so kind for second grade English, Spanish. Yes, people are so kind. And Adelia said this earlier. If you don't ask someone specifically about their language skills, you probably don't know. This person who you think does not speak English may have been trying to, maybe in classes, they may be in ESL night classes, they may be doing something else, right? It's ugly. If you're an agent for white supremacy in America, you're going to be a gentrifier abroad. You're going to be a colonialist abroad. Get it together. Decolonize that mind. You got it. I know you do. There's no inherent value to speaking English in America. Besides the fact that the dominant culture speaks it, most people speak English, but there's no inherent value in it. There's no inherent value in speaking English. We got to let that go. It is white supremacy. We can do better. Celeste said she was at a doctor's office and a patient went off on another patient because she was on her cell phone speaking her native tongue to someone. Why don't, like, that's being in other, your business is here. Why do you care what language they're speaking? Why would you care what language another person is speaking? And people getting real. I was in the nail shop and they were all speaking. Who cares? Who cares? If I'm going to a Vietnamese nail shop and I say Vietnamese because I recently learned there's a reason that a lot of the nail shops are Vietnamese. There's a historical reason. Anywho, if I'm going to a Vietnamese nail shop and I am concerned that people are speaking a language I don't understand, I need to learn a few Vietnamese words or move on. And if they're talking about me, they're talking about me. I don't care. I don't care. We've got to learn to police no one but ourselves. Right? You've got to learn to police no one but yourself. You've got to stop policing other people. Mind your business. Listen, English is a difficult language to learn. I don't know how we got here. Stop it. You can be a gentrifier. You can be a colonizer. You can be an agent of white supremacy. It's ingrained in us just by the nature of living in America. It is ingrained in you to be a soldier in the white supremacy army. It is. To be a gatekeeper for the patriarchy. To stand 10 toes down for capitalism. But you can do better, right? You can decolonize your mind. I want that for you, right? Like I said, there are areas where I could do better. There are areas where we could all do better. This is not one specific person is doing this or doing that. We all fall victim to it because it is who we have been told to be. We can make other choices. You're a human of free will. You could make other choices. Right? Love y'all. Mean it. Stop policing other people. Police yourself. You are actively doing something right now that is not to the benefit of your greater community. For some of y'all, it's using AI. Because them AI machines are destroying Black communities with their environmental impacts. Right? It may seem, like I said earlier, about gentrification, it's just me doing this small thing. It doesn't matter. Collectively, it matters. There's something that you can do differently to be a more thoughtful, more helpful, kinder / better community member. Are you going to do it? I don't know. Am I going to do it? I don't know. It takes energy. A lot of our changing takes energy. It takes effort. But energy and effort is why we're here. Energy and effort is why I'm here. Right? Energy. They are talking about you. They are calling you a colonizer, and they may not be wrong. Friends, I think every time I get like if I Google something and I don't put that like dash AI to take it off, like minus AI, and I get an AI result, I'm like, how dare you, Google? Why don't you have a switch I can flip so that I am not using your AI machine just to summarize the article I was going to read anyway, and I don't trust your summary, so I have to go to the article anyway. we're going to see Black communities suffer significantly. Black babies getting all kinds of cancers and other diseases from the environmental impacts of these AI factories. And you type it into Chatty, into your GPT, may not feel like it does anything negative, but you know it does because I know you can read and I know you see the articles. If we lived now, if America was a place that was fair and equal and honest, this would not be a problem because they would not be building these things solely in Black communities, but they are. And little Black babies gonna get sick because you had to type in a chat GPT, what country should I move to? And I know some of y'all are trying to like, la, 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 right? I know it. Some of y'all tuned out. Some of y'all are agreeing to disagree. I saw you in the comments. I see it. It's just facts. We're using up all the water, and then we're going to be a waterless planet, how does that work? And it is actively hurting Black communities. That is something you can work on. I'm not saying fix, never use it again. I'm saying you can decrease your use of artificial intelligence, of generative AI. You can decrease, now AI is kind of built into everything these days, right? So you can decrease your use of AI today. And that will reduce your role in the colonization and destruction that is happening in Black communities in America today. That is something you can do today. All right? Okay, that was not the topic, but I felt moved by the Spirit. Yes, okay, so yes, if you Google, what do you do in a Google search? If I typed in, why is Rashida mad? I would press space and then the minus sign or the dash, not the M dash, the other one, and then without, right next to it, no space, so the minus sign, AI, minus AI. I've done it and it is not, Google has overridden it before, like one time, but usually it works. You don't get AI results, right? Yes, Stephanie typed it, minus AI, right there, just like that. We're smart people. We know we are thoughtful people. We're empathetic people. We know that we live in a world where some people have been declared king and get to have everything, and some people have the small things they have being taken away from them daily, right? Even if you own a home next to that AI server farm, whatever it is, how do you sell it? How do you sell it when the air is being polluted? When the whole area is being destroyed? What's the value of your home now? And if you can't move, like the people in Flint, how do you sell your house when you ain't got no water? Who's gonna buy it? Right? When you're taking from people, right? You probably didn't do anything to contribute to the Flint water crisis. Black people in the South, if you're using AI, you're contributing to their crisis. You are. And like I said, AI isn't everything. It's really hard to avoid, but you can use less of it. You can use less of it. These people won't be able, a year from now, maybe even now, they won't be able to sell their houses. Because who's going to buy it knowing the air is polluted? So their kids will grow up in those houses. They're losing money, they're losing their health. They're losing the value of their home. If you can't sell your house, it's not worth anything besides the value you get from living in there, right? You bought a house, you can't sell it now. You can't, which means you can't move your children out of this polluted area. All that to say, we talk about often, people come in and talk about, let's talk about how not to be a gentrifier when we move abroad. You got to think about how you're a gentrifier and a colonizer where you are today, right? Tomorrow, you'll take care of tomorrow. Today, what can you do? Okay. Oh, Christine says they can't drink the water or use it either. How you sell it? What is the value of your home if you cannot use the water? Who gonna come get that home from you? But Elon Musk is getting richer and richer and richer because of the server farms and because it's a Black community. The government doesn't care enough to do anything about it. Committed to the journey, what you would do is this is what your AI search should look like on what your non-AI search should look like on Google. Like I said, they've overrode me like once, but usually it works. So you just type in what you want to know, a space, and then the minus sign or a little dash, minus AI, no spaces in there. If you put a space in there, it won't. It will give you all the AI results. That's what it should look like. All right, y'all. Thanks for being here. I thought this was going to be an hour. It wasn't. Come back next week. I won't be mad about anything. I promise. If you haven't already liked this video, give it a thumbs up, subscribe. If you don't want to hear from me again, and I understand, Nina, if I'm a race baiter and you don't like that, because why am I race baiting while we're at war? Like we're not always at war. Give it a thumbs down. I don't care. Just tell the algorithm something, right? Tell the algorithm something. And I'm out. I'll see you guys. Okay, wait. If you're in the membership, we're going to meet in about 15, 20 minutes. I'll tell you the time in the community. Love y'all. Mean it. See you next week. And I hope all is well with you. Oh, Exodus ASAP. Next month is Get Your Next 3 Clients Challenge. If you want to move abroad and you need money to move abroad, we're going to help you get that money to move abroad. This is for people who sell services basically online, and you get your clients online. You don't have to deliver the services online, but if you kind of prospect for clients online, it's not for people who sell products or like have a storefront, physical or otherwise. Okay? All right. Bye. Celeste, email me if you have my email address. Celeste, email me real quick. No, that is not my email address. hello@rashidadow.com. Celeste, email me so we can talk. Okay? All right. Bye. Stay safe, y'all.